Okay, so where we are now is that I have added in the text box and the subheadings for the different sections on the poster, and I've also added in the images that we downloaded earlier. I also found an image of the author and decided to add a section about what is velveteen, and here's just an image that I found using that same search technique on Google for velveteen. So what I did is that I put in my titles for my sections, and then I chose a color and a font. So for this, I went up here and I just looked through my fonts list and found this Harrington font that I liked, and I selected that. And then I chose a size that's a bit smaller than my title, but still fairly large, so I went with a 66 Harrington. And then for the color, I just came back over to my color palettes and used the pastel rainbow and used this brighter color in the pastel rainbow, doing the same way of copying over that hex code. And actually, all of the colors for the text that you can see here, these different colors, were all just different colors that I found in this palette. I also used the Shades of Lavender palette, and then I also used the blue. I think came from this main blue options, the darker of the blue options. So again, using the palettes can be a really helpful way in finding some different color choices for your poster. The little bunny tracks in here in the middle, I just threw in from clip art that I found online. Just to make it a little more interesting, I felt like there was a little blank space here. Just be careful with what you do. You know, you don't want to junk it up too much. Don't be afraid of blank space. Um, this font that's in here is actually 32 size font, and I just left it the default Calibri. Um, it seems like it's really small, but it's actually quite large. 32 font is quite a large font. So keep that in mind that you can have what seems like a small font on your poster. If we think back to the Vatek poster, the font looks very small, but this is actually like I think a 28 size font. So when the person is up close to the poster, it's going to be much easier to read and see. So I chose an About the Author section, the Velveteen Rabbit summary section, some awards and recognition, and additions and adaptations. And then up here at the top is where I put in 5 of my different covers from the books. And you can see that the images look really nice here. The size of them is actually, if we look, it's about 4 inches by 4 inches. So they're good size images still, and they're going to be very good resolution because we chose those high resolution images from our Google search. I just decided to kind of stagger them. Normally what you would do is put a caption. So for these I would put the caption above up here, and in these I would put the caption below in much smaller text, just giving the addition, so to cite, to provide the correct recognition and to give the correct information. And then the other thing too is that with my picture of Velveteen down here, I don't really like how it looks, so I'm going to show you a quick fix that you can do for a picture. If we go up here to picture format by selecting it, you have a lot of different options that you can do, including making it more transparent, putting on effects, that kind of thing. So like artistic effects, they do all sorts of things. Generally, the rule is avoid those because they're actually copyright infringement. You're taking somebody's work and then changing it a lot. But what isn't is something simple like looking at shadows, reflections, soft edges, that sort of thing. Or they have these quick styles here. So this is sort of what makes it float or what gives it a soft edge or reflection. So I'm going to do soft edge rectangle, and that just sort of faded it and took away those harsh edges. And for me, I personally like that better. These I'm going to leave as they are, but in the Vatek poster, you can see that I turned them at an angle with a reflection. I found that from the same menu option up here where it says picture format. One of these options here is a bevel that turns the picture and it provides that reflection. You can do things like that. The other thing too is that for this, I sort of like the minimalistic view of just the pastels on this yellow cream background. You can see with the Vatek, I did sort of a complex layered text box with images and shadowing. And that's certainly something you can do, and you can fade an image into the background if you want. But it does take more time. It is more complicated. If you want to do that, I'll show you really quick. It's pretty simple. Just select the text box where your text is, go up to Shape Format, and then you're going to see Shape Fill. And all you're going to do is select a color for that, and that will change the color of just that text box. So the way that I created it with the Vatek is that this is actually a text box that I filled in with a color and then also added a border to. And you can do that from the same thing here. This is, if you look up here, these options, shape outline, that's the border. And I just created a very thick weight border, this 6-point weight, and did it in a different color than the background. And that's how I sort of created this layered look. And then I gave the whole shape effect that same reflection that we see right here, as I had, as I showed you with the images before. So that sort of can give you a more complicated, more complex look. This one I sort of liked it the way it was, with simple and flat, just sort of these pastels, just seemed to fit to me. Again, this example has a lot of text in it. You would normally have another section in here probably. This wouldn't be so long, but this sort of shows you the way that you can do it. Now keep in mind, when you print this, there still will be a 1-inch white margin around the outside. Now that is just going to be there because the printer cannot print all the way out to the edge. But it is something that you can either cut off if you don't want to, or don't be afraid to push your edges. Don't be afraid to come really close to your edges and use them, because you will have that white margin. With the Vatek PowerPoint, I decided to leave it there, and I liked the way it came out, but you can certainly cut it off. So now we have our information here. Like I said, normally you would put a reference to what edition of the book these are above here, and you would give an image credit underneath the images here. So the only other thing really that we would have left to do for our poster is the very important bibliography, which on the Vatek poster I represented with this QR code. And then also this sort of mention down at the bottom here that covers the Creative Commons and also gives credit to the department and to your professor. So you can actually copy, if you want, verbatim what I have here. Basically, you want some sort of similar listing on your poster. You want to list that you designed it. You have the option of putting on a Creative Commons license on this if you want, because it is your property. You are creating something. If you do that, just look up Creative Commons, and you can it provides you with a PNG of the Creative Commons symbol, and you can put it right under your poster if you want the design to be protected under the Creative Commons copyright. But you definitely want to give some attribution to the school, to the course you're taking, the title of the course, the actual course number, your professor, and then also your name. So in a little short separate video, I will show you how to add a QR code to your poster and how to link that to a bibliography. This will enable the people to interact with your poster. It's also a great idea if you have like a little YouTube video or a clip that you'd like them to see about the Velveteen Rabbit or whatever your topic is. You can do that as well by adding a QR code to your poster. And then if they have a smartphone or a device, they can actually scan the code while they're reading your poster and see a little video or see something else. So QR codes can be a great way to interact with the poster. So I will add that little department attribution and my name down here, and then I will add a QR code and show you how to associate that in the next little clip. So I hope this has been helpful. As far as the imaging editing and that sort of thing, really you can play around with it as much as you want. Under picture formats, there are some great quick styles. Like I said, try to stay away from artistic effects or color. But you can crop the image a bit, you can rotate it, you don't have to stick with straight lines and patterns. Feel free to just sort of move around. I probably spent about 10 minutes moving all of this around, just seeing what I liked, how it felt. make sure you leave clear space between your sections so that the reader can sort of identify that they're different sections. If you wanted to add something like a reflection to the text, you do that in the same way that you do with an image. Just go up here to Shape Format, and then under Shape Format, there are the same things here where there's reflection. Now that would give a reflection to the box itself, but you can also select the text inside, go to your home, and then over here you have different options for your actual text. So you have like the font options here, and then you also have that's a smart art option if you're doing like a timeline or a graph or a design. But you also have some options for um, the word art and those sort of things that you can do as well. Um, so you can play around with it. Here are some other, here's the word art, shadow, reflection, glow, and it'll give you an example of what that would look like. But just again, be careful with those. You don't want something that's going to be too loud and too obnoxious. So in the next one, I will show you the QR code and just giving that little attribution, and then you will be well on your way to having a finished poster.